Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. We're live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, and affiliates across Ghana, including Swiss FM in Ho, Dreams FM in Bolgatanga, and Sky FM in Sunyai. You can download the My Joy Online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live wherever you are in the world. In this edition, National Security Ministry identifies mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy and state capture by a group it describes as political elite, warning the group poses a major threat to the security of the country.
The threats that confronted us as a country decades ago have evolved faster and with greater intensity than anticipated.
But is this a true reflection on the ground? We'll be hearing from some of you, as well as pick the perspective of a governance expert. No conviction after 4 years of banking sector cleanup, with just 1.7 billion cedis recouped from a possible 27 billion cedis. Former workers of financial institutions feel punished for previous employers' wrongdoing.
I feel like some people can just do whatever they like and get away with it.
The wheels of justice grinds very slow.
That's coming up on Joy News Total Recall today. Also, impact of the strike by the Senior Staff Association taking a toll on universities as its primary schools assign class assistants and national service persons to hold the fort in the absence of striking teachers. We have details also in sports.
Black Stars head coach Siki Akuna is confident of a good showing against Morocco in tonight's friendly despite limited time to prepare. There's more when I join you in 20 minutes.
And later we'll tell you about a different side to the President's Executive Secretary as he contemplates venturing into gospel music.
I've written a lot of gospel songs. I wanted to try that genre. I have a lot to say.
We'll have more from Nana Bidi to Asante later in the bulletin. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. Please stay. And this is your home of bold and fearless journalism. This afternoon, in what could be described as a blunt depiction, the National Security Ministry has identified mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy, injustice, and state capture by a group it describes as political elite. It says this group poses a major threat to the security of the country. Captured in a national security strategy document developed to govern operations of the Secretariat, it warns the issues, if not tackled, could lead to extremist behavior, which could further degenerate into violent extremism. Presidential correspondent Elton Brobe has been studying the document and reports.
Reporting on the domestic, regional and global threats, risks and challenges confronting Ghana, the document points to a number of security threats and risks that confront the country, particularly in the area of human security, as a result of some perceived or actual deficits in one or the other tenets of good constitutional democratic governance. For them, mismanagement, injustice, state capture by a group of political elite, weak and ineffective institutions all tend to negatively affect the quality of governance and could spiral into various forms of indiscretion that could be indicators of bad governance. Issues such as the imbalanced allocation of resources and opportunities to identify groups, poor service delivery, systemic exclusion and marginalization, which could in turn lead to a rejection of generally accepted social norms and values and further status quo. The report also points to the failure by political leadership across board to reach consensus and implement constitutional reforms such as the deepening of decentralization. These issues, according to the report, can lead to extremist behavior which could further degenerate into violent extremism. It concludes by saying both extremism and violent extremism are risks to our national security interests. Kandapa is the National Security Minister.
The threats that confronted us as a country decades ago have evolved faster and with greater intensity than anticipated. And this underscores the need for the swift implementation of the national security strategy to decisively mitigate new and emerging threats.
Bribery and corruption, according to the report, rank higher on our national security risk register over the years, considering its prevalence and negative impact on our social security interests. It says the canker were assessed as having become virtually systemic in the Ghanaian society. The report says corruption in Ghana comes in various shades and forms and cuts across the national politics, administration and bureaucracy, as well as the private sector, with considerable debilitating consequences for the growth and socio-economic development of the country. Kickbacks from the award of public contracts are all forms of corruption that defy our existing response mechanism considerably and create risks to our national security interest.
Elton Broby there with the portions of that document. So what do you make of these threats identified by the national security? That's the question we put to some of you.
The findings that they brought out is true, because a lot of crimes that is happening in the country is because of job. Somebody will complete school and then at the end of the day she have to sit in the house for like 3 years, 4 years. Our parents too, they can't take care of you during school, and then in the house too, you have to be a burden. So I think that the government have to create more jobs. There have to be more jobs, at least open some jobs that the youth can depend on.
In this system, we've realized most of these youths are unemployed. Are you getting it? Yeah. And the rate at which living is very high. So youth finds ways and means by which they can survive, as well as our politicians. We've realized most of our politicians are not really into our youth, trying to help us. So the youth thinks putting themselves into all these crimes is the ways by which they can generate their revenue to live. The government must ensure that they support, like this creating of these seminars, creating of jobs and other things. Are you getting it? Yeah, not necessarily we being like they will always need us only when it's time for election or whatever it is. But they should also try to create jobs and avenues for the youth. And I think with this it can help to reduce the crime rate, because you realize that the major causes of this crime is because today they want to make a living. So they are putting themselves in.
Right now, more employment, because especially we those in the schools, the university graduates, when you complete school and then there's no job, it's heartbreaking. It's like you've wasted the time, so it's a serious problem. I think the government should create more jobs for the youth, and then it will decrease the sakawa and then the fraud and then those bad acts things in the country.
For me, the issue of this Ghana not being safe for us, or the insecurity issue going on. I think it's lack of education. Yes, because in our school, we come to school, we are being taught different things. When we go out, we do different things. Some people, they don't even understand what they are learning in the school. They don't understand the subjects. They don't understand anything. They are just passing through the school like that. So I think it's lack of education. And then people also... Insecurity, yes. And people also...
Some of your views there. Let's bring in the thought of a governance analyst also, Frederick Ejaku Odro. We're grateful for your time. So you say that the political system as it stands now has failed the people. In your view, what could be done to salvage the imminent threat?
Well, I think that after we needed a transition, Ghana went through so much. We were under military rule. We needed to move into democratic governance. We fashioned for ourselves a constitution which created various institutions. But by and large, I think the system we fashioned at that time was necessary. We needed to make it comfortable, a comfortable process so that we could go through the transition. Having gone through that process, I think we missed one major opportunity in 2011, 2012, after we have had a constitutional review commission, and we failed to implement the key things they said. Then, fast forward to even 2019, when we wanted to have these reforms in our decentralization, and again we failed. So we have a system that has put too much power in the hands of the president, for which reason there's so much patronage and there is lack of accountability in the system from the lowest level to the highest level. Everybody is beholden to the presidency, and parliament is weak as we have it now. So we need to have a systemic rethink about the kind of governance structures we have, so that we can begin to get the system to work.
Well, but is it surprising to you that the political elite pose such a major threat to the security of the country?
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to blame them alone. I mean, there are a lot of things to be fixed in this country. And I wouldn't blame the political class alone. But if we ourselves are prepared to put so much power in their hands, and there's so much, we don't have an avenue to make them accountable to us, that is what we should expect. But if we are all going to have a discussion as to the kind of institutions we put in place and seek to make them more accountable to us as citizens, then I think we can derive the best possible benefits from the system.
Okay, we're grateful for your time. That's Frederick Ejakodro. He's a governance analyst. Now, moving on to some other stories. 4 years after the Bank of Ghana and Securities Exchange Commission closed down more than 400 institutions, no one has been convicted for collapsing the sector. Government says it has recovered 1.7 billion cedis out of the total 27 billion Ghana cedis in assets from these shareholders. Former workers of the now defunct institutions who still struggle to make ends meet feel they are being punished for their previous employers' wrongdoing. Daniel Dazi takes a look at the cleanup and its impacts for today's edition of Joy News Total Recall.
The morning of the 14th of August 2017 was a restful day for Ikea, a 36-year-old single mother who had been working in the banking industry for 10 years.
I was on leave actually, so I was home listening to the morning news, and I heard it over the radio that
the premises of UT Bank and Capital Bank will be rebranded as branches of JCB Bank.
The announcement triggered a series of events which changed her reality and that of her 6-year-old daughter permanently.
We went to the office in the morning and we were handed over our letters. So I went to the Uber office. You know, because I'm a woman, I'm unable to do the peak hours. What I get from doing Uber is daily upkeep. But when it comes to major maintenance on even the car, it's a challenge, and even my rent.
Ikea is one of the over 5,000 workers in 7 banks who lost their jobs as a result of the financial sector cleanup. Eventually, over 400 financial institutions closed their doors, leaving many lives and livelihoods in peril. Another face behind these numbers is Jemima Mensah, who recently started a catering business.
And it's still not easy because this money in this shop is not for spending. So you don't get any money from it to solve your problems. So things are still hard. But since we have this, and it means there is still hope to do something. So now the washing have stopped. I've graduated from washing to catering.
Though Ikea and Jemima do not agree with the actions taken by the Bank of Ghana, consultant Nana Otio-Echampong explains Dr. Addison and his team took the best possible course of action.
Allowing them to stay on was one option, but not the preferred option, because sometimes a system will be so broken that your only alternative is, to get rid of it and start afresh.
He is, however, disappointed that little progress has been made in recovering the lost funds from the shareholders of these institutions.
Some 27 billion of assets have been identified by the receiver. We've been told that so far 1.7 billion has been recovered. The auditors again are turning around to tell us that the assets were overvalued in the books of the banks. Who audited those accounts? It was these same auditors that audited.
Persons currently standing trial for the alleged mismanagement which caused the collapse of the institutions include former Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Kwabena Dufo, former Deputy Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama, and Dr. Kofi Amoabeng, among others. It is not clear how much progress has been made in these cases, but there is no doubt that the impact of their alleged actions still leaves a bitter taste in the mouths of thousands like Jemima and Ikea. For Total Recall, Daniel Dazi, Joy News, Accra.
Now, the impact of the strike by the Senior Staff Association is taking a toll on operations at most of the public universities. Students at the primary school at the University of Ghana here in the Greater Accra region have been forced to assign class assistants and national service persons to hold the fort in the absence of the striking teachers. The teachers withdrew their services 2 weeks ago to protest government's failure to improve their conditions of service. Joy News has cited a letter the school has written to parents. My colleague Manuel Cranting has a copy. He joins me in studio. Manuel, what does the letter say?
So, my father, the letter is dated 7 June 2021, co-signed by the headmaster Alfred Kujoalote and then the chairman of the management board, Gloria Ansa Doctor. And it says that the school management was officially notified of this action, referring to the strike of the teachers on Saturday, 5th June 2021. Now, it continues to say, we see this latest development as very unfortunate because teachers in our basic schools have been brought in. And the situation is worrying since our activities as basic schools are determined to a large extent by the Ghana Education Service. Now, we write to inform you that the school will run as we have it. The underlisted category of staff will hold the fort as we await the return of all teachers to the classrooms. And the list includes teachers from the Federation of University Senior Staff Association of Ghana, FUSAG, class assistants, national service personnel, student teachers on internship from University of Education and the University of Ghana. And that is what they mention. They say they would communicate updates to the parents as and when new developments come up. MFA.
Okay, thank you very much, Manuel. Meanwhile, at the University Primary School in the Ashanti region, students have had to stay home as a result. Prince Apia has been monitoring the situation. He joins us on the line. Prince, you visited these campuses. What can you report?
Yeah, no, if I can report that if you get to the University Primary School, for instance, nothing is happening there. It's only the security persons who are at post and manning the gate. No students have been coming to school since Monday. I should also say that in the university, for instance, a lot of the administrative work are being affected. And you know that the lab technicians, some accountants are all part of the Senior Staff Association. So as it stands now, it is the national service persons who are trying to help with some of the work, but their activities are restricted because things like signing of checks cannot be done by national service persons. So a lot of things, activities that are happening in administration is being hampered as a result of the strike.
Well, that's my colleague, Prince Apia. Thank you very much there, giving us a report on the situation in the Ashanti region. We'll stay a while longer on the education front. This time, management of some senior high schools in Ghana are appealing for support from parents to be able to deal with some of the operational challenges arising from the implementation of the free SHS policy. Government in 2017 rolled out a policy which has since increased SHS enrollment by over 1.5 million. Even though government vehemently discourages soliciting monetary contributions from parents, the schools say they are struggling to cope. Over the weekend, at least 2 grade A schools held PTA meetings to appeal for support from parents in covering cost of interventions.
One parent, this is where the wrongdoing or the assessment of the parent comes in. One parent called and said, my daughter said she wanted to come home. I told her I was not home. Then she said, Mommy, I'm fed up with the campus. I want to stay away. So I want to go to the hotel. Then the mom said, well, you can go. So our dear parents, we plead with you. Kindly help us.
Well, some parents have been calling to the Super Morning Show, with some of them asking government to allow them support the administration of the schools.
Every PTA does something, but please it should be voluntary. Not that it's an application that, look, if you don't pay, go home. You're not going to write your exams. You're not going to do this, and then you more or less be punished. That is what the government is against. But please, PTA today. One also said, please get some hashtag. Community schools, let's all contribute. We all do it. Because if we have to leave everything to the government cannot do everything. But please.
That is why the government is saying no PTA. But if the system can be formalized in a way that it will not be compulsory, but it will be those who are willing to pay to be allowed to pay, I think corporate institutions can even support such a system.
So if now parents are out of their own will, want to help government should allow us to also help, because the free education is not going well and teachers are free to talk. So please, government should allow us, not by force. People are willing to even pay for their children to be educated rather than free education. So
some parents who called into the Super Morning Show today. Now we head to Parliament, where the minority has given government a 7-day ultimatum to constitute new governing councils for all public universities across the country after the expiration on the eve of January 7, 2021. Even though government provided a 5-month extension to allow for the proper reconstitution of the councils, it failed to meet its May 31 deadline, leaving the schools with no legitimate body to issue degrees, approve appointments and promotions, among others. Today, the minority in Parliament is threatening to drag the Education Minister before the House if government fails to constitute the councils in 7 days. Peter Nochukotoy is ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee.
Government must do immediately is to make sure that within the shortest possible time, within 7 days, the councils should be put in place. At the committee, I'm meeting the chairman this morning to let the minister appear before the committee this week. Because if you want to put it to the question now, it will delay. So we want the chairman to invite the minister to a meeting before the end of this week to come very fast. What steps the ministry is taking to make sure that the various councils are put in place so that normal work, the work that is expected of the council is done, so that we don't see any group of persons going to court that the council have taken this decision when they were not officially in office. Because since January up to today, it's about over 5 months or 6 months. Why has it taken government so long to nominate members to the council? And to the council, you will realize that most of the people there are already institutional representatives. Those from government side, including the chairman, are very few. So what is holding government back from nominating council members and council chairman for smooth administration of our public universities? That is what I don't understand on the part of government.
That's the ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, Peter Nochukotoy, will stay a while longer in Parliament because Deputy Minister Designate for Youth and Sports, Evans Opoku-Bobie, says government is committed to developing juvenile sports in the country. He's been responding to questions that is vetting before a Parliament Appointment Committee. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, parliamentary correspondent, has been monitoring the vetting. He joins us on the line. What else has come up at the vetting, Joseph?
Mr. Vance Obi also detailed what the government plans to do when it comes to ensuring that there is adequate infrastructure to support sports development in the country. And he says the government has shown over the last 4 years that it's really committed to investing within the sports and youth development domain, and they would continue to do that. A while ago, the Deputy Minister Designate for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Shekubube, took his seat to be vetted by the committee. He's responding to questions about the minimum wage and the latest increment that's come and whether it's adequate to ensure that Ghanaian workers live better. A little later in the day, 2 others are expected to appear before the committee rounds up its work for the day.
That's parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. It's time to take a quick breather here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. Our top stories: National Security Ministry identifies mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy and state capture by a group it describes as political elite, warning the group poses a major threat to the country. We have sports after the break, and later we'll tell you about a different side to the President's Executive Secretary as he contemplates venturing into gospel music.
I've written a lot of gospel songs. I wanted to try that genre. Have a lot to say.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the Eastern region, we're on K Poly Radio in Koforidua. In the Northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, Radio 123 and Radio Justice in Tamale. And in Savannah region, we're on Inkelege FM in Bole. In the Upper East region, we're live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sonmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nandom, Radio Wa in Wa, and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrot FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy 99.7 FM. George Adu Jr. has sport. Hello, George.
Hi, MFR. We've got a game to watch tonight. The Black Stars are up against Morocco in a friendly. I hope you're great. You're going to be watching that 7 p.m.
Of course, with you.
Yeah, great stuff. Let me tell you about it. Coach Siki Akona is hoping to fine-tune his team ahead of the upcoming 2022 World Cup qualifiers. The team had the last training session this morning, but will be without midfielder Glasson Wako, who hobbled off after a minor knock. Here is the Black Stars head coach Charles Akona.
The way we came together was not a solid one, because every now and then one player or two players will pop in, and so having said that, these guys play in Europe, and hopefully whatever we are bringing on board, they'll catch it quickly and do a good job. We are dealing with what we have, and I must be honest, I'm happy with the work we've put up in a response from the players. I'm believing that tactically we'll be clever, we'll be intelligent, we'll be deep, and it's 90 minutes game plus some extra game. So I'm looking forward to a team that will be disciplined to the duration of the game. We want to control the game and manage the game in the home of the opponents. Indeed, it's going to be a very, very difficult one, because they will not change their style of play. They will keep to their style of play, and I think if we are able to match them tactically, that is when I made mention of the deep thinking of the players and tactically how we understand what we have to do, and there shouldn't be any complacency.
That's the head coach of the Black Stars, Charles Akona, and I should tell you that the Ghana Football Association is yet to confirm the Black Matches lost by 4 goals to 0 to Japan's under-20 team. That means over 2 legs, we lost by 10 goals to 0. And at the moment, as you mentioned, the Deputy Sports Minister, designate Evans Bobiopoku, is facing the Appointments Committee right now. Right.
Thank you very much, George Adu Jr. Now, a Supreme Court panel presided by Justice Yawapil has set aside a High Court order that indefinitely barred the Fix the Country campaigners from staging a street protest. The court held that this order was in error and proceeded to quash it. This is the response to a case filed by the campaigners against asking the Apex Court to set aside a High Court order that halted a planned May 9 street protest. The High Court is in restraining the protesters, stated that they are not to hit the streets until such a time that the appropriate authority lifts the COVID-19 restrictions on public gathering. Of course, the campaigners insisted this order is unlawful. They had asked the court to set this aside, but the AG argued the order under the High Court rules. The order was to last 10 days and has since elapsed. Listen to Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame make this point on Newsfile last month.
On the face of it, it seems that it exceeded the 10 days allowable in the case of an ex parte instance. But there is no cause for alarm at all, because the rules make specific provision for that. Order 25/9, as far as I recall, it's clearly to the effect that where an order is obtained ex parte, it can only last for more than 10 days. And it is by the Supreme Court organized to that effect. So if you obtain an order and on the face of it, it's supposed to last until the termination of the action or until the occurrence of a situation which seems to be indefinite.
Now, court correspondent Joseph Akable joins us from the Apex Court. Joseph, you sat through legal arguments. Explain to us why the campaigners, despite being told the High Court order was in error, still wanted the Supreme Court to set it aside.
Because they said as far as they are concerned, it's an order of the court which they have no option than to comply. And so they cannot assume that simply because there is a written law that says that for such ex parte applications supposed to last 10 days, and so you are going to disobey, even though the order of the court clearly communicates that you cannot embark on a protest until such a time that the appropriate authority lifts the restrictions on public gathering. And so they urge the court to set this aside.
Okay, so the AG disagreed with this. Tell us about that and, of course, the ruling of the court.
Godfrey Yeboah-Dame argued that this order was granted on May 6 and elapsed on May 16. And so he made a point that he had argued on Newsfile that as far as he's concerned, that order has since elapsed. And so the court cannot be asked to set aside an order that has already elapsed. And so that was his argument. The court, in ruling on the matter, said that the judge was in error as per the matter that was put before him and the nature of it. And under the rules, she should have granted the order for just 10 days. So the court proceeded to set aside the portions of the order that indicated that they are restrained from embarking on a street protest until the restrictions are lifted.
That's court correspondent Joseph Akable. There's more on that on myjoyonline.com. It's time for our Drive Safe campaign.
Safe driving saves lives. Drive safe.
And despite advocacy and increased efforts at ensuring road safety, road accidents continue to increase. Between January and May this year, 1,250 people have died. This is a 26.32% rise compared to last year's statistic for the same period, according to the head of Education, Research and Training at the Police MTTD, Superintendent Alexander Obeng. Most of these occur at junctions.
We expect that there will be self-compliance because most of the crashes that are happening at those junctions, particularly in police-urban jurisdiction. In these city-town road junctions, there are signals, and we expect drivers to stop when it is amber or when it is red. But what we are seeing, that anytime you see amber, and then it tells them to speed, they are supposed to stop. And that's the problem we have, that now people are rushing to cross amber lights. And that is one of the most dangerous behavior every driver must prevent him or herself from. And so we have used this opportunity to admonish all drivers.
That's for our Drive Safe campaign. It's time for Showbiz, and we've been talking about the Executive Secretary to the President, Nana Bidito Asante.
Yes, and you know they say God works in mysterious ways. Well, he wants to venture into gospel music. He was speaking to Joy Entertainment at +233 after he performed Kojo Entry and Kiddies songs.
Recently, through a pastor friend of mine, Prophet Gideon of Empowerment, he encouraged me, and I've written a lot of gospel songs. I wanted to try that genre. I have a lot to say. I'm a Christian, and so I like different types of music, and it's what I do in my spare time. When I get home from work, I sit at my keyboard, I play, relax, take a shower, and go to bed.
So that's what's happening in the world
So why
of
did he perform
politics.
that gospel song there that day?
Oh, you know, he's still writing,
Okay.
he's meditating, he's waiting for the word of God to fall on him, you know, and the Holy Spirit to enter him. Then he'll
Then
start.
he can do that.
Yeah, release
Okay.
the songs.
Thank you very much, Mapito. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stories making the headlines on myjoyonline.com. Supreme Court set aside High Court order that indefinitely barred #Fix the Country campaigners from demonstrating. Also, we are bringing you the live stream of the NCC holding a national dialogue on violent extremism. That survey report, and also live updates for the Appointments Committee sit in Parliament rule out fresh measures to protect MPs from COVID-19 as House record new case of the disease. That and more on myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apau, and thanks for your company here on the Midday News. Wisdom, episode 12, with Pastor Mensa Otabil is up next with Living Word.
Imagine strutting into the most anticipated wedding of the year. Only to see 7 other girls wearing your exact same outfit.